a data science consultant with over 5 years of experience, and I joined MUSP's founding batch. I'm also a placement committee member over here, and I'm really excited to be addressing this webinar today.
Hi, I'm Vikas, and I'm a chartered accountant by profession, and I have around more than 4 years of experience working majorly with startups with a venture capital, and I've been an entrepreneur by my own. And yeah, like Dipti said, we are really looking forward to talk to each one of you and address your questions.
Hi, my name is Prashasti. I have pursued Bachelor of Business Studies from University of Delhi. I went on to do Young India Fellowship from Ashoka University, after which I worked with a digital NBFC for 6 capital for 2 years. And now I'm here at Master's Degree. Very, very excited to be talking to all of you, and we're open to questions. Okay, so we'll wait for questions to come in, and in the meantime, I think we can probably share our side of the story with all of you. Dipti, would you like to start?
Sure, yeah. So I think my experience in the last 4 months here at MUSP has been very enriching. So like I mentioned, I come with 5 years of experience. It is a different work game for someone with that amount of experience, but I've been able to learn a lot, both in terms of academics, because we have very talented masters coming in and teaching us, because it is very exciting to be learning micro and macroeconomics from Mr. Naren Sajada, who's the former chief economist of the country and is also an honorary member of the Parliament Rajya Sabha. And it's very interesting to be in his sessions. And also, we've been taught marketing by Mr. Elkana, who's the former CMO of Samsung. So when you get such rich industry experience in the classroom, and also it is supported by a lot of internal teaching assistants who help us understand the theoretical aspect of it as well. So I think the academic part has been very enriching. And also, I think as a cohort, we're very diverse. So like you see in this room, when I interact with Vikas, I learn something totally different because he's from the world of finance. So similarly, I hope I'm able to bring in a lot of aspects with respect to data science and consulting. So I think the peer-to-peer learning is really helpful because we're a very small batch of 65 students, but I think we are quite strong as a group.
So I think we have questions pouring in.
Yes.
Start taking them up. So the first one is by Samarth. He's asking how many terms are over and how many masters or faculty for each course. What's the split of teaching hours between a master and other faculty? So I think I can take that up. I'm currently heading the Academic Affairs Committee here. So as we speak, we are nearing the end of term 3 in a few days. So 3 terms are over and we've done close to 15 courses, or an average of 25 courses per term we've done. And this is excluding the boot camps, which are also like a full-fledged course for us because we're evaluated and we do projects. So that's where we're at. The split of teaching hours. Most of the courses are, we have the 20-hour courses and full 20 hours are taken by the master. There have been 1 or 2 courses which have been floated by the in-house faculty. For example, we had a course on platform economics, which was floated for the first time in India, and that was taken by Akash Krishnan, one of our in-house faculty, and he taught us for 20 hours for that course.
There's also a question from Krishna on what do you think MUSB has to offer from established B schools, and how has the experience been so far? So I think there are 3 key differentiations that we have observed and we've experienced. One is definitely a lot of a lot of industry-based learning. So when we are sitting in a class of marketing, we do not just learn about the theories of Cohort, but we also see how it applies in the world, because Mr. Elkana comes with his stories and his experiences of how it worked out in Samsung. So of course, there's a lot of industry-based learning which is happening. Second is a one-on-one mentorship. So each of us have a singular mentor who's an industry stalwart who's assigned to us. So I myself have been assigned to Mr. Jamshed Dabu, who is the ex-CEO of Titan and ex-MD of the Star Group. So I get to learn a lot about the retail world, which is my core interest, from Mr. Jamshed Dabu, and who also mentors me, throughout my time over here, and also maybe beyond. So mentorship is second, and the third thing and the most important thing is technology-based preschool. So, we have courses like, we've been learning R as a part of our bootcamp. We had a course led by Mr. Tushar Jaruhar on business analytics using Python. So, we learn industry problems like, how do stock prices fluctuate. And we literally take that problem and we code it on Python. And it's not difficult. I mean, I'm sure even someone like Vikas who has not worked on it previously, he's able to cope it up because there is so much peer-to-peer learning happening. And also the teaching style is such that there's more focus given to understanding and more focus given to, how you should be interpreting results. So those are the three differentiations. Hi, have placements begun? So Shreya has a question on placements and how do you think MUSB compares to other private business schools in India like ISB? So I think the comparative comparison aspect has been answered. So let me take up, on the placements. We're currently going to be starting our placements for the internship period. So we have an internship period from April end to July. So it's almost 2.5 month internship period, wherein there are multiple options. So our process has already begun for it. And our final placements start in the month of September because we graduate by November. So once our our internship placements get done, which is a combination of both industry-based internship and also certain other options like Cxo shadow programs, you can also explore your own ventures. That can also be an option wherein you will be supported by the ecosystem over here. And also we have long-term consulting and CXO shadow programs, like I mentioned. So these are also options. So we're currently in the process of getting allocated to one of these programs.
So just adding to that, actually, that is one of the differentiators that we don't really call it an internship period. It's an industry immersion period for us. Yeah. And where we have different categories of how we immerse with the industry. One being internship, second being CXO shadow program, third being starting your own venture and working on it for a few months. And yeah.
So the next question is by Veda Somani. So you all have had prior work experience. Is it favorable to have work experience before joining or to get in directly after college? Okay. Honestly, I mean, if we look at the diversity in this particular batch, so we do have freshers, and as well as we do have someone coming up with an experience of as much as say 18 years. So I mean, there's a lot of diversity per se in that sense, and from a personal stand, I would say, I mean, having an experience. So I mean, it's a good to have, but it's not a must to have when it comes to an ecosystem of this sort. Because again, a lot of diversity would introduce you to a different facets of once you get into the work into the real world or the industry. So having those experience of the people coming from a lot of work experience or a little bit of work experience, and also having that diversity shared by the freshers, in itself gives a different taste. And to give a simple answer, I would say it's not a hard difficult thing to get into a B school without a work experience.
Can you shed some light on the investment fund? So Samarth has a question on the investment fund.
Yeah. Investment fund. So yeah, I mean, we have it set up and running now, and we have a team of 10 members in the investment fund, which is also being mentored by 2 mentors. So this fund is of say it's a 5 crore investment fund, and students are given, or the members of the fund. It's not just the members of the fund, but across. I mean, even other students can participate actively in the fund. So, like I said, it's a 5 crore fund, and we all have the liberty to invest on ourselves. And whatever are the profits that we make out of the investment fund are to be split within the members of the fund. And so that way, it's a really interesting initiative, I would say, because students will get hands-on exposure. Whoever is interested to get into an investment sort of a field, they would get hands-on exposure with regards to where do they want to invest, how much they want to invest, and I mean, there's no restriction with regards to if there are any losses. It's completely, I mean, it's from the perspective of learning through doing. So that's the thing about investments. And like I said, I mean, it's across sectors. I mean, you can invest into real estate, you can invest into say bullion market, you can You can also invest into startups that way. I mean, you can, and also stock markets, whatever investments come to your mind, say blockchain, cryptocurrency. So yeah.
Okay, yeah. There's a question on from Vedant on how approachable are these masters. The website says we get chance to shadow CEOs and CXOs. Is that really happening? And also from Love, there's a question on one-on-one mentorship. So I'll answer both of them together. So yes, mentors are full-fledgedly allocated to every student. So you have complete liberty of asking for guidance in any which way you want. It could be academic, it could be for your extracurriculars. You would want to get some guidance on what kind of career path should you be choosing. They also help you network. So if they might not have the direct answer for certain questions or queries that you're having, they also help you network with their connections. So the mentorship program is very open-ended, which is good because every student gets to explore how they want to really use their mentors. So that totally depends on how much you want to get out of the mentorship program. But there is complete discretion from the university side of of allowing students to take that call with the mentors. And mentors are very approachable. So I myself get on a call with my mentor every week for an hour. And apart from that, he also shares a lot of content that I should be reading up on because if I have interest in the retail and the consumer division, he shares content with me every week for me to read. So they are very approachable that way. And also there was a question on CEOs and Cxo program. Yes, that is happening. So like I mentioned, the April to May period, the July period is when we will be doing Cxo shadow programs, where you will be interning and working alongside a Cxo.
Yeah. And also to add on to the mentoring part, right? Our mentors are really proactive that way, and they also reach out upfront with regards to, okay, is there any help that you need? Or they also follow up consistently with regards to, whatever we discussed in the previous mentor meet. So how's the progress coming along? So that way, it's a really, again, an interesting thing to have.
Okay. What made you pick this program for the first batch? Why not other programs in the world? There is explicit comparison of this program with ISB flagship. Did you have a choice to make between the two? It's a very interesting question, but I think everybody has a different take on it. So let me just tell you my take on it. So I think, of course, there are risks of being the first batch. But I think the kind of program that has been curated and the kind of mentors that we have on board, that sort of brings in a lot of confidence and it really boosts the program. So I was very inclined towards really getting the chance to speak with people like Mr. Rajat Mathur, Mr. Elkana, because in other world I probably would not have that opportunity. And the second aspect for me at least was in order to take that risk of being the first batch was that this is a technology-led B school. So even though we're the first batch, of this B school, we do possess a lot of skills which might not be, something which is industry standard. Coming out of this course, I definitely am more confident about my analytics skill, and I'm sure, I'm more confident about the recent technology that is upcoming in the world right now. So I can definitely, vouch for that. So, and I think direct comparison with the ISB flagship. Of course, I think India, ISB is a brand name after IIMs or alongside IIMs. But I think it's also, for me, it was a conscious choice of, going ahead with something which really complements my profile. And of course, I think technology was a key point, like I mentioned, and that is something which is very different. So I don't think we were able to you can't really weigh that with other programs, with all due respect to all the courses and all the programs.
Yeah, I mean, largely for me also, the whole aspect of technology was very, very tempting. And the other thing was the batch size. I mean, in most of the other B schools, I felt the batch size was really large. And here, the kind of attention we are getting is really great. So that was one of the big sellers.
And just to add on to Dipti and Prashasti, one more thing is the diversity in this particular batch.
Yeah.
So that is something that fascinated me a lot. I mean, we already discussed about people. I mean, there are also freshers and experienced folks. I mean, but also in terms of the background, right? And so Dipti is coming from analytical business consulting background. Prashasti coming from marketing related background. I'm coming from finance. So there are also lawyers in the batch, and there are also entrepreneurs in the batch. So that way, it's a very diverse background. So a lot of peer-to-peer learning happens in this sort of a background. So yeah, that's what made me get into the batch.
Okay, there's a question from Aman on what are the current placement scenario in internship summer placements, top companies that have come for live projects, and top recruiters that you have tie-ups with. Let me talk about the live projects that we're currently doing. So currently the batch has there are 4-5 projects which are going on. There's one from Coca-Cola. There is also one which is ongoing with Hero, Hero Electric, the electric vehicle segment. There are also some projects happening with tech companies like Squadstack. It's a very upcoming startup that has recently got a huge amount of funding, and also upcoming CPG clients like Blue Drive. So these are some names, which are, and also yeah, there's a project with PwC as well. So because our internship period starts from April, these are just the first round of companies that are coming. And also in terms of, what are the companies that will be coming for placements, I think you all see on the website that there are some 127 companies. So with all the 127 companies, we have a MOU signed. And, as a part of the placement committee, right now we are, working on getting the empanelment done and we're getting the companies on campus. But I think we also have a huge, repository of companies in Connects through our masters, through our, leadership, which is also being sought after for the placements.
What was the admission process like for you? How long did it take? Which exam did you take, GMAT, CAT, or any other? And what were all your scores? Okay. So I think we were, because of COVID, a few plans have changed. So the whole mandate around having a score was kind of slashed for us. So I don't know about you too. Did you take it?
I did give GMAT.
Okay, so
Yeah, even for me it was really low.
yeah, so for Vikas and Vikas and I did not have to take an exam and show a score, but there was a very extensive application process, which had a couple of essays, which had one essay around, why, if you were given a certain amount of fund, how would you invest it, and what's the rationale. We had to submit a video explaining our journey and a few questions. So it was a very elaborate application process, which was, if once you got shortlisted, then you were called for, not exact called for an interview, it was virtual for us. I don't know how it would be for you all. Then we had a virtual interview, and then we had an aptitude test of sorts after the interview, and then a case round, a case study round, and then we got our final.
And an interview.
That was the process last year.
Okay, so Vedant has a question on what does a normal day at Masters Union look like? So I mean, it's been a so normal day at Masters Union. So we start our, so it's like it's a rigorous day, I would say, to put it in one word. But then I mean, yeah, we start our classes sometimes at 9 a.m. or sometimes at 10, and we end. There are around three. I mean, at maths there are three courses in a three
2-hour sessions.
3 2-hour sessions in a day, and there are good gaps in between them. And having said that, there are also assignments. So there are assignments, there are case studies to look after, and there are also midterms, there are quizzes, there are interns. So that way, it's a rigorous day at Masters Union. And having said that, it's a lot of peer-to-peer learning. Even in that case.
I can probably like build an imagery around what the day looks like. So we all stay, the campus is situated somewhere else and the hostel is situated somewhere else, and we shuttle around between the campus and the hostel. So we all hop into a bus at around 8:30 in the morning on most days, and then we reach campus discussing cases during our bus rides, because that's the first thing you're supposed to do when you enter class, present your cases that you worked overnight on. Lectures start at full swing. In between, we get time to grab lunch. There are also, like Vikas mentioned, there are some blocks in the timetable, but then again, we have some club work to do, some committee work to do, some kind of practice sessions, some brainstorming happening, startup school, NUIF having its own meetings. So, the days are pretty packed. We kind of get free usually around, between 6 to 8 p.m. on an average. Then we shuttle back, we go home, we grab our dinner, freshen up a little bit, and then again we kind of like sit down and in our groups and work on our projects, assignments. That's pretty much it.
Okay. What should be an ideal profile for admission? So there is no, there's not necessarily a ideal profile as such because, like you mentioned, it's a very diverse cohort. So you could be an entrepreneur, and you could just have done a 3 year normal graduation, and you're an entrepreneur for the last 5 6 years, and you could be an ideal fit for the college. Or you could be an engineer, or you could be a chartered accountant, right? So there is no ideal profile, but I think what they really look for is your aptitude towards using technology in your field of interest, because that is the core of your course. But also at the same time, what is it that you really want to get out of NUSB? So I think profiles, it really depends on how you show up your profile and how you perform your interviews and your case rounds.
So Vedant has a question on networking dinner, and as it has been mentioned in the brochure. So Vedant, I mean, a few of us just had a networking dinner with Mr. Jamshed Dabu, say the last weekend itself. And so networking dinner, the good part about networking dinner is like you get that one-on-one or FaceTime, in-person FaceTime, I would say, with the masters, and it could go on and on. Say, for example, with Mr. Dabu, we spent close to 2 hours and getting to know his personal journey into the retail management space. And more than that, also it also helps you building that connect with a master. And it could be a lifelong thing because once you get into a networking dinner, then that's how how do you build that relationship. So and these networking dinners, it has been a great experience, I would say, because I personally got, and I'm sure Dipti and Prashasti also. I mean, we personally got a lot of takeaways from these networking dinners in terms of personal stories and how can we build our own career going forward. So yeah.
What would you suggest a person with 10 plus years of IT work experience to leapfrog to higher management roles? Would this course be helpful? Yeah, sure. Because we have students in the current cohort who have 10 plus years of experience. We have someone who has 19 years of experience in the telecom industry, and he's here for his masters. I'm sure it's going to be a good value add even after 10 years of work experience.
Yeah, I think the great thing about the course is that it's very contemporary the way it's designed. So, especially the people who have been working for 10 years would probably be finding themselves stagnating at a particular level because to get to the next level, there is certain understanding of especially technology now after the onset of COVID is very important. So, in that sense, probably Masters Union really fits the bill for you.
So yeah, the next question is by Kaushik, which is on how does the incubator work in Masters Union. So we have a startup school being set up by Masters Union, and that is again a student-led startup school. And so lately we had a business plan competition, so where each one of us was involved into the business plan competition. And the thing about it is, there's a lot of I would say the idea, one more idea behind Masters Union is to bring in that entrepreneurial spirit or entrepreneurial culture within each one of us. And in terms of say if you have a startup idea, then what's stopping you? So there are mentors. I mean, you can leverage the master connect or the mentor connect that we have built. And the second is there's a lot of industry immersiveness. Also in terms of the cohort itself, right? There's a mixed cohort, and it's a diverse cohort. So, say for example, I come from finance background. Maybe my startup needs some help with regards to marketing or analytics. So Dipti and Prashasti can join in. They can help me. So that's on the personal front. But from an incubator front, the incubator also has the startup school also has a diverse set of people, diverse set of industry connects. Say, having those connect with uh, tech folks, or maybe having those connect with say finance, marketing. So whatever you need, everything is right there, ready from the day zero itself. So yeah, that's a brief about.
And you also have like these boot camps. So, for example, recently we had one on starting and scaling up, where Pankaj Dubey, he came and he kind of like mentored a lot of entrepreneurs on the batch, sought a lot of advice from him.
So yeah,
Kind of initiatives.
I mean, the incubator, I mean, right from ideation to prototyping, how to read a shareholder agreement, how to understand the term sheet. So a lot of the nitty-gritties of starting up. So I mean, it's like an entrepreneur sharing their own journey. So that's what happened in the last boot camp that we had. So yeah.
Is there anyone in the classroom from a business background or having a business experience? Yes, we do have entrepreneurs in the class. I think Vikas in Vikas himself is one.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that's a simple yes.
Yeah, many actually.
Yeah,
Yeah,
many, yeah.
there are many of them who are coming
People
from
running family
background.
businesses, people having their own business. Many of them.
Right. So I think because
And
of the topic.
yeah, I mean, since we are on the topic, so like okay, I'll share my own experience, right? I mean, I have been running my own startup, and there are certain challenges that I face in terms of understanding different facets of business. So that's where when I came in, I say, for example, I don't come from a tech background. I'm a chartered accountant and a finance folk or a business folk that way. But in order to understand technology, so I mean, and since this being a tech-led business school, so I mean, doing those, I mean, understanding analytics or understanding technology, how does it work? So these sort of things really help. Now, for example, someone coming from a tech background and who has been an entrepreneur by himself or herself, so that person can understand, like I said, again, different facets of business. So it's like a holistic approach that we are having, and by the time we get out of it, we are equipped, or we are equipped with enough resources in our hands to get it up and running.
Yeah. So I think there are some questions around the aptitude test or MUBAT. But since this is new for the upcoming batch, we let the admissions team take it up separately during the end of this discussion. Okay. What role does a master play in the entire journey when you need to interact with them? So, like I said, master is like a one-on-one guide for you throughout the program and also beyond that. And they are meant to support you with be it your academics, how do you want to manage your time, how do you want to what electives should you choose if you want to go a certain direction in your career. Who are the people that you should be talking to? Now, let's say I want to explore a career, let's say category management, and my mentor might not be directly related to that, but he will connect me with his connection who might be the right person for me to talk to. And a lot of these mentors are also masters who come and teach. So, someone who has Mr. Rajiv Gulati, who's a former MD of LID and president of Ranbaxy, he's also coming here to teach consumer health. There's a lot of interaction even beyond the classrooms with the mentors, and that's how it's supposed to be. They're supposed to be your guide throughout this course.
It's quite a nomenclature thing actually. I mean, in other colleges, maybe you call them professors, but here we just call them masters. That's the way we address them.
The next question is
Do you
around.
get to choose your own mentors? How does the executive shadow program work? The executive you get to shadow has to be your own mentor, or do you get picked separately for that? So the career services team, I'll answer briefly and then Dipti will take it up because she works very closely with career services. So the career services team does a lot of one-on-one interactions with students to understand your background and then where are you headed? What are your aspirations? Basis that, they kind of like design a roadmap individually for each and every student, and then they look at their list of masters and try to align you with your best possible match. So that's how it works. So in a way, if you're asking us that do you get a list and you say this is the person I want, no, that does not happen. But we have experts, who kind of understand better that who would be in a better position to mentor you. So that is how it works. And as far as the shadow program is concerned, no, it's not necessary. There might be a possibility that you get to shadow the same person who you're being mentored by, but it's not necessary.
Yeah, I think Prashasti covered most of it. Can you move to the next question?
And also adding to Prashasti's point on one-on-one master or the team. I mean, there's a team who works and in terms of connecting us to the master, finding the right fit, right? And personally, I guess we all have a good fit of masters. As for example, I'm very much inclined towards business, or business strategy, or running a startup. So I got a master, who's Mr. Siddharth Balakrishnan, and who is majorly into this. So I mean that way, each one of us, the background, the profile is properly looked into, and what they want to do going ahead, and then master is allocated to them. So that way, it hasn't been an issue.
Someone is also asking about whether to stay in the hostel or not. So all three of us are staying in the hostel, and honestly, it's a very personal call, depending on your, how much, your finances and your personal capabilities. Because I mean, it's a way of life, right? But if you ask us, I think we have a great time staying in the hostel. I mean, the sense of community actually, that develops only when you're living together. So it's been phenomenal. You study together, you cry together over assignments, and then you celebrate birthdays together, you work out together, you prep for Diwali choreography together. So all of the madness happens in the hostel, honestly. And if you ask me personally, I think, yeah, big yes, just go for it.
Please speak on consulting domain opportunities at school, internships and potential placements, how useful it was to be surrounded by MNCs, BCG, Bank of America. Right, so very interesting point. We're located in DLF Cybercity, so we share a building with Gartner and BCG. So it's a very interesting location for that matter. And in terms of consulting domain, we have a consulting club which has been started in the college. And as a part of it, we practice on case studies. We have people like from the consulting world. Like just last weekend, we had someone who was a consultant at BCG. She came in and spoke to us about the whole consulting world and how to go about the case study approach. So we had a working workshop with them. We also had someone from Deloitte, and we also have someone from Accenture coming in next week. So there's a lot of interaction. The consulting club is very much active. I think there was a second part to the question. So yeah, I think of course sharing the same building with them, I think we do get a lot of we do get some accessibility to them.
And the intention, but given that COVID has been
people
not been coming to office, so
yeah,
we have not been able to capitalize on it. But the hope is that, I mean, by the time the next batch is here, things will be pretty different. But in order to compensate for that, college keeps ensuring that they bring people here for interactions.
So a lot of it, I think the good part is even we are of course taking the course in person. We also prioritize sessions wherein the speaker can come in person and talk to us. Of course, taking all the precautions in terms of COVID, but we prefer that speakers come in person and interact with the students.
Yeah.
I want to know more about the boot camp. What exactly do you get to learn in those boot camps? So till now, we've had our boot camp, retail management, and
So starting
I think so yeah, I think largely we've had four boot camps. Two boot camps around coding in our language. One was conducted by our in-house faculty, and the other one was conducted by an industry expert, somebody who works with Squadstack. So what largely happens is that they introduce you to the language, and each and every student codes with the faculty in class. So we run our codes simultaneously, and whenever there's an issue, you can get it addressed by the faculty right and then. And then we get projects. We sometimes get teamed up in twos, sometimes in groups of four, and we get case studies to work on, or like a small case let to work on, and then present an interpretation of what we've done, like how we solved the problem using a particular coding language. So that's one bit. And then two boot camps. One has been around retail management, which Dipti's mentor, Mr. Jamshid Dabu, did for us. That was also it was a 2-day thing, and we engaged with it for almost 5-6 hours. And all of us were divided into groups, and we had been allotted different companies. For example, Vikas, Titan, etc. And we presented our analysis to Mr. Babu, and then he kind of shared his insights, and that's how it was. And similarly, the last one was on starting and scaling up, and that was a huge hit with the entrepreneurs of the batch. And yeah, that's all.
Right. So I think what bootcamps essentially help you do is while you have your rigorous 20-hour courses, there are also these weekend boot camps where you pick up a new skill which are very transferable in manner. You don't need a 20-hour course to understand the basics of art, because let's be honest, and people who are aware of the who are into coding, it does not. it takes practice. It takes you, it takes you a lot of practice to really master a skill. But of course, being managers, you need not do that. You need not know how to code in R, but you need to know how to manage a team which is probably working on R. So that is essentially what you learn in those 2 days. You learn what to look for, and how to identify if something is going wrong. Right? So that is the idea of these short boot camps. They help you with very quick skills, but also very relevant skills.
Yeah.
And also, I think there are some questions around internship season and how confident are you about the upcoming placement season? What would your expectation be in terms of final placements? Sure. So the internship season starts April end. So we have a good 2.5 month period for our internships. And like I mentioned, there are multiple options. So we don't call it internship, we call it an industry immersion period, wherein in some form or the other we interact with the industry. It could be through a traditional internship, or it could be through long-term consulting projects, because especially people who have enough experience, internship might not make sense for them. So they go for long-term consulting projects. Someone who's a fresher, who might want to go for traditional internships, or maybe even a Cxo shadow program, right? So there are multiple options that you get to choose from. And how confident are we about the placement season? So this is a tricky year. I mean, and not just for us; it's a general industry norm, because we're recovering from COVID. So like I think like the entire industry, there are things which are slightly slow, but we are quite confident about things turning around by the time we come for our final placements. Because the placement team has reached out to more than 100 plus companies. We've had close to 50 speakers come in the last 4 months from the industry, who've come interacted with the students, who understood what the batch is doing, and what the college is up to, and spreading the word. So I think they're very much there in terms of setting up a global footprint. And of course, we have MOUs, like I mentioned. We already have MOUs signed up with close to 127 companies, and we're working on getting them on campus towards the end. But while I say that, I also want to mention one thing, that we are not a batch of 800 or 1,000 students. We're a batch of 65 students. So the placements also happen in a different way for us. So we will be doing a rolling placements. So it might not be a traditional season where you have 4 days where all the companies come on campus, because every student is very different over here and has different requirements. So we might also be looking for some off-campus placements, wherein anytime an opportunity comes in, we have the student and the company interact, and then it goes on from there. So because we are a new batch, because the COVID stuff here, and also we are a smaller batch with very different requirements, traditional placements does not work for us. So we will also be doing the rolling placements as and when the time comes, which is September of this year for our batch, and of course, for proceeding batches it will be different.
Okay, the course structure is very unique at Masters Union. However, I'm curious as to how effectively it's being taught to the students. If you could please share your experience pertaining to that. Okay, so yeah, I mean, it's a no-brainer. They are delivering what they promised. I mean, that's a simple answer. And it's all of us have had that kind of traditional education before, at least at undergrad level, where we've been taught by academicians. And here, of course, academicians are also there, but most of them are practitioners. And honestly, you can it feels different in a lot of ways. Those real stories and those real life experiences and instances, they really do make a difference.
So I think, okay, just to elaborate further, how effectively they're delivered. So I think the way the courses are formed is very interesting. Let's say, I think we already mentioned this, but we did something called a platform economics course last term, which is the first time a course like this has been delivered in the country. So we're learning relevant skills. How does the economics of upcoming platforms, because platform is a way of business right now. So let's say an Uber or a Swiggy. How do economics of platforms like this work? So they're very relevant. So the course roster, if you see, it's very relevant to what is happening in the current industry. And it's also delivered in a similar way. So in terms of material, we also do what other B schools do. We do Harvard Business case reviews. We do an IB case review. But we also we have similar books of what another college would have. But what is really different is the way it is delivered. Because apart from doing Porter's 5 courses in the book, we also get to hear of how someone working with UAE exchange really dealt with it in the real world. So I think that is what is really different, and that is why it is more effective, because you learn by examples.
I think I would also like to give the example of how he's being taught by Naresh Jadhav. So he's the former chief economist of the Reserve Bank of India, and he taught us microeconomics, and now in this term he taught us macroeconomics. So when and personally, I've been taught macroeconomics at undergrad level, but he comes with very rich experiences. He literally comes and tells the stories of RBI, like how how he was sent to Ethiopia and the kind of consulting projects he's done with different governments. So those are very, very, very unique.
I mean, today itself, he was talking about a conversation that we had with the Prime Minister of the country, wherein he was talking about how Paytm, and how Paytm and Alibaba are very closely linked, and how what we should be doing to reduce our foreign direct investment. I mean, to really hear those stories coming from the horse's mouth is very different, and they're very exciting.
Is the curriculum similar to that of other traditional B schools? So honestly, we can vouch for what we are experiencing. And what other B schools are doing, of course, they have their own legacy and they're doing great. And we don't have a first-hand experience of what's happening there. But based on what we've researched and what we've studied, ours seems to be more real-time and more contemporary. That's our understanding. Could be wrong, but that's our understanding.
Yeah. And also, there's an interesting question on, the expected salary for the batch is around 20 LPA. How much faith and confidence do you see in the statement? So I think we're very confident. Firstly, because all of us come with experience. So the average salary of the incoming batch is close to 12, 11.5, 12. So we already come with that experience. So it is not difficult for us to aim a 20 LPA average salary, because I mean, to be very honest, if someone with a 12 LPA maybe applies even without an MBA, they are expected to have a certain jump. But now with an MBA and with the kind of connects and the kind of companies that we're getting in, we're very confident that a 20 LPA is average 20 LPA is very much feasible. And also to add on to it, we also have freshers, of course, in the batch. But we are ensuring that the minimum salary stands at 14 LPA. And we're trying to also filter our companies accordingly. So our 20 LPA is quite awesome.
So yeah.
How do assessments happen each time? Is it case study based or exam based? So honestly, it's the instructor's call, and we've had some very interesting ways of being evaluated. Also, like in consumer behavior, we all had to create an advertisement, like we literally shot ads, edited and presented. That's why all instructors have the liberty and the freedom to design the course, including the evaluative components as per their discretion. And we have in class 5-mark quizzes. We have elaborate exams, small case based elaborate cases, group presentations, making videos. It's a whole mix.
So yeah, so the next question is from Shilpik, which is the startup incubator limited to MBA students, or is it available for people if they approach the incubator? So yeah, I mean the startup ecosystem is not limited to MBA students, but rather it's like we are building up an ecosystem for the startup culture. I mean it's already there, but then also we would want to add on our bit to the ecosystem. So yeah, it's open for others too, not just MBA students. Okay, so Ria has next question, which is what's the scope of running an existing startup parallel to the course? So yeah, interesting question. So honestly, I mean, I'm personally been working on one more idea along with two other batchmates from the cohort itself, and the school is very open for it. And in fact, the school is sort of a motivational push for us, because the type of interactions we have with the masters or also the in-house faculties, or also in terms of the connections that we have, or rather masters union has with the ecosystem, that is sort of giving us a motivational push that okay, it is possible. It is possible to move from the ideation stage to prototyping to having that early revenue traction. So yeah, I mean we can do it in parallel with the courses that are being taught.
Yeah, and very interestingly, a couple of people in the batch were running their own, not running or maybe building on their ideas. They're also using their own ideas and their own businesses as case studies for different projects. different courses. Like for platform economics, they're studying their own platform that they're trying to build. For say consumer behavior, they're trying to study their own target audience, and they're trying to create an ad for their own set of potential customers. Yeah. So they're very much possible.
What's the ratio of non-engineering to engineers in your current batch? And are there challenges for applicants who are not too well versed with using technology? No, so the ratio is quite balanced. So, out of 65 batch, I think we have close to 15 to 20 engineers. We have actually 15 to 20 people from the finance background and also, 15 to 20 from the commerce, lawyers,
psychology.
Yeah. So it's a very balanced course. So you need not necessarily be very well versed with technology, but of course you should have a knack for it. You should have an interest towards it, and I think that should be enough for you to get through the course.
If your question is that during the application process, will you be evaluated based on your understanding of technology? Then no. But are you supposed to have keen interest in learning about technology? Then yes.
What is the batch division in terms of freshers and work experience?
So I think it would be a good 70-30 in terms of 70% people coming with work experience and 30%
Less than 1 year, sort of.
freshers or less than 1 year experience.
Okay, so the next question is from Sukruti, and it is, although all of you have got some years of experience, but we enter a B school, we do have some college life. Do you feel missing out on that? And you being a hectic program and giving office fees? Not, actually, not really, I would say, because I mean, everything has its own taste. And this is also college life, I would say. I mean, there's a hostel life, which personally, I mean, I did not have. And the college life component it's very much present because, we are working together, we are working on projects, and in fact, we are discussing case studies, we are doing our studies together, we have studies group.
I think people looking at this room, they might be thinking that it looks like an office, which we don't disagree with, but I mean, it has all the components of a college.
So of course, it's it has a tad bit of like a startup feel to it, but we also have a lot of things that a traditional college has. Like we have clubs, we have chapters. Vikas is a part of the finance club. We have we have a consulting club. We have a marketing club.
Wellness club.
We have a wellness club. Yes, we go for walks.
Yeah. And we do all of the conventional stuff. We celebrate Diwali, we celebrate Christmas. I mean, all of that conventional stuff does happen.
I think we're right about 10 more minutes into the session.
Right.
So, we will also have the admissions team and the leadership team joining us for answering a few more questions.
So, I think this is a good time for us to introduce Rupesh. He's the CEO at Masters Union. He is an alumnus of, ISB Hyderabad. And he has over 20 years of experience spread across industry verticals in corporates like Reliance, ICICI, Tata, Ambuja. And he is, of course, a veteran in higher education domain.
And he was also an admissions director at ISB Indian School of Business.
Well, thank you for the nice introduction, Prashasti. And thank you all of you, Vikas, Dipti, Prashasti, for taking the time out from your busy schedule. And a warm welcome to all the participants who have joined us remotely today. I'm sure you've been having a great conversation with the cohort here. And I feel I'm really not required here because I believe that all your questions have already been answered. However, it's my duty to answer all the questions. And if there are any residual doubts in your mind, if there are follow-up questions, or if you need any general inputs from my side, I'll be very happy to provide my service here. So please feel free to write your questions in the chat box or the Q&A section, and I'll answer those for you. But I think before doing that, let me give you an overview of how do we select students. Because oftentimes when I have a word with prospective applicants, they have this question in mind: how do you actually go about selection and how do you offer scholarships? So we have a very well-defined and structured process. And I believe most of you have already started writing your application. You have had a look at the application portal. It's a very comprehensive one. And applying to any business school is a very introspective and a time-consuming process. So if you want to submit a really powerful application, you should devote adequate time to that process. So you have to write, you have to, scratch your back, you have to think, look back into your past corporate life, into your personal life, and derive experiences from there which are going to create an impact, at least on the admission panel who's viewing that application. So you should look for areas wherever you have been able to create an impact, whether be it your professional life or whether you have been involved in societal work, been involved with an NGO, surely out of passion. So that's what takes a lot of time. And you also have to get a good quality recommendation. Give your recommender adequate time because he has to think and you have to guide that person also. I'm not suggesting that you write the recommendation, you should totally refrain from doing that, but provide inputs to your recommender, help him remember those times where you really created an impact on the organization. And that's a good way of writing a powerful application. Once you have submitted the application, the entire file comes to us, the admissions office, and two independent evaluators have a detailed and deep look into your application. Basis that, we figure out, what are the qualities you guys possess, and should we call you for an interview. But before that, there is a mandatory process. After you submit an application, you have to appear for the MU BAT, which is the Master's in Business Aptitude and Admission Test, which is a test of your reasoning ability, your logical abilities, your verbal abilities, and on top of that, a small case assessment is provided to you. We would like to see how do you structure your thoughts, how do you break down a bigger problem into smaller problems. Typically, the work consulting guys do. So in a premier business school, most of the students would like to go either into top finance roles or consulting roles or high tech roles, technology roles. So this essay evaluation also gives us some sense of your abilities and give us an input on how effective you are going to be in that domain. After you have prepared for the MUBAT test, the results come out to us and we look at your percentile in different sections and in overall percentile, the overall score. Basis that test and basis what you have submitted in your application form, we take a call on should we invite you for interview or not. If you are lucky enough to be invited for an interview, because last time our selectivity ratio was around 11.4%, and we believe that since the brand has grown since then, this will be much higher this time. So after you get invited to an interview, one of our masters or two of our masters interview you in a panel interview format where they are evaluating you on certain predefined parameters. And these parameters have predefined weightages. So it's not like the master takes a call on whether you get admitted to the school or not. The master is assessing you independently over the interview. And they have questions around, could be around your achievement orientation, your initiative taking abilities, around your general awareness, around your fitment to the program, around what do you bring to the table. Because as you all know, peer learning is a very important aspect at a business school, and we would like to evaluate how effectively do you contribute there. After this process is over, all you get is a final weighted score. You remember I told you that the evaluation has weightages, predefined weightages from different aspects. So we look at your past academics, we look at your annual bad score, we look at your performance on the interview, and that final weighted score decides who gets into the classroom and who gets a scholarship, which means that in the rank ordering, the top people will automatically get a scholarship. We follow a completely need blind process, and all the scholarships are merit-based scholarships. I hope that gives you a good idea and good view on the selection process. I'm happy to take questions. So the question is around what's an ideal profile? So I believe there is no ideal profile for a business school. I'm sure the students here have provided inputs on that as well. All we want is, so if you ask me what kind of student do you want at Masters Union, I would say that I would like to have somebody in the class who will make Masters Union proud 5 years from now or 10 years from now. So what it really means is we are looking for people who will create a large impact on society. Of course, they have to do well for themselves. That is their first job. So we expect our alumni to do really well for themselves. And as a natural progression, we believe that will also add and bring a lot of value to the society. They will rise on the corporate ladder. Some people will start up on their own, especially people interested in the fintech, edtech, food tech domain by using skills learned during the boot camps, the artificial intelligence boot camp, machine learning, blockchain, all these areas have deep applications and implications for every single function in industry. If a student knows the use cases in these areas, and if a student is confident to oversee implementation of these, I believe that is a proposition very, very difficult for any recruiter to ignore. And that is something which we are trying to instill here. Coming back to the question of an ideal profile, some of the qualities which we would love in a student are achievement orientation, the ability to unlearn and learn new things, ability to take initiative, and a good person at heart. Because could you read out the question?
Sure. So Nishank has a question, which is for a candidate with no GMAT, CAT, or GRE score. At what stage is the MU BAT conducted? Pre-application submission or post-application submission? Can the candidate submit the application without GMAT, GRE, or CAT score? And there's a follow-up question to it. Or the other question is, with 10 days to round 2 closure, is it sufficient to complete the application from the scratch?
Sure. So while we would like you to submit your GMAT, GRE, CAT scores in case you have one, the MU BAT test is a mandatory test which is administered online. It's a proctored online test, and it is offered to you roughly 7 days after you have submitted the application uh, per the deadline. So which means that since the deadline is 31st of January for round 2, the test is expected to happen somewhere around 7th, 8th of February, and you'll have an option of choosing between two dates. This is going to be an online proctored examination. The second part was the 10 days.
With 10 days to round to closure, is it sufficient to complete the application from the scratch?
As I mentioned earlier, it takes time and introspection and rumination to submit a good application. But I believe if you devote large part of your days to thinking about, or if you've already thought about these things, I think you can submit a good application in 10 days. So, one of the question is people coming from family business background, who should be their recommender and how do you evaluate them? Often then what happens is family business people reach out to their relatives or their siblings for a recommendation. I believe that a better recommender would be, in case of family business people, a vendor, auditor, a chartered accountant, a supplier, a customer. Those people would bring in very important perspectives. Because if you get a recommendation from a blood relative, I think credibility there is a slight bit of an issue. So refrain from going to blood relatives. I'm sure you'll have many other contacts to get recommendation from. Family business is also one of our specializations, which kicks in after the core terms. So which means after you do this, before 23rd of April, then you go for the internship plan.
Yes.
At that point in time, you can choose any one of the specialization, and family business is one of them. If you'd like, later on we can share a detailed course or electives offered under the family business specialization. Please ask admissions team to send that list to you, and we'll do that for you. So all the questions we have is, do you have any sort of foreign collaboration? So we are actively in the process of identifying very good quality collaboration with foreign business schools. On top of that, we have something called a Silicon Valley Immersion Program, which is one of the 8 options available to you during your industry immersion period. So if you feel that you will benefit from having the experience of the Silicon Valley, you can take that route as well. So all the costing for these programs are over and over the program cost, and the entire cost of the travel, stay, etc., is to be borne by the students. But if you are willing to go. If you're interested to go for a Silicon Valley immersion, we will organize it. So there is one question around placement. I'm sure the current students would have provided their inputs as well. So we have a benchmark for placement. We have decided that any company, any organization which is not offering 14 lakh CTC per annum will not be invited for on-campus recruitment. And because of the fact that our current cohort is extremely talented, they have rich experiences, they have an average salary of close to 11 lakh rupees. As they come into the program, we are totally confident that they will get at least 20 lakh rupees per annum. And as I said earlier, the minimum salary would be 40 lakh rupees CTC. But if you were to ask me about statistics, I think we can answer that question in December 2021. So I see a few more questions on the screen, but in the interest of time, because our current students also have to prepare for an examination, right? You have an exam going tomorrow, day after. So I would like to once again express my gratitude and sincerely thank all the students for doing this for us. And I would like to wish you all the very best. Do submit a powerful, impactful application, and we hope to see you on campus soon. Wish you all the very best. In case you have more questions, please write to the admissions team and we will respond quickly to your queries. Thank you so much and wish you all the best.
Thank you. All the best,
All the
everyone.
best.